In May 2025, Universal opened doors to the largest theme park ever built in a single phase in the history of the United States. 5 entire worlds, billions of dollars buried in concrete and steel, and one simple promise: to turn Orlando into the entertainment capital of the world. But there is a problem that no theme park can solve with a roller coaster. The airport that feeds this entire machine, Orlando International, already processed more than 57.5 million passengers in 2025. And now, with millions of additional visitors knocking at the door, the city that sells dreams is about to face a logistical nightmare that not even $6 billion in expansion can prevent. How can the biggest tourism investment of the decade become the biggest threat to the experience Orlando spent 50 years building? Orlando did not grow accidentally. The city is an attraction machine calibrated over decades. Disney World, Universal, SeaWorld, Port Canaveral, the Orange County Convention Center. Every piece was designed to multiply the other. The tourist who comes for the parks extends the trip for a cruise. The convention visitor stays for the weekend at the parks. The cruise passenger stops over to check out a ride. This machine worked perfectly as long as demand grew at a predictable pace. Epic Universe changed the equation. It is not an expansion area inside an existing park. It is an entire complex with 5 themed worlds, its own hotels, and independent infrastructure. Universal designed Epic Universe to capture visitors who previously chose only Disney and to convince those who already visited Orlando to come back sooner. In other words, the park was built to increase the total volume of tourists in the city, not simply redistribute the ones already coming. And here's the paradox: the more successful Epic Universe becomes, the more pressure it puts on the single point of entry that all those millions of visitors must pass through: the airport. To understand why this equation does not balance, you need to look at 3 fronts at the same time. First, the demand that already existed before Epic Universe and was already pushing the system to its limits. Second, the billion-dollar expansion MCO is executing at full speed, and why it may not be enough. Third, the physical obstacle that no investment can remove: the hard ceiling of the runways. Let us start with what was already happening before the new park opened. In the holiday period between December 2025 and January 2026, MCO processed nearly 3.1 million passengers in a matter of weeks, 1 in every 4 flights, a delay rate of 26.4%, departed behind schedule. This was not an anomaly. It was the portrait of an airport already operating at the edge of capacity during peak periods, months before Epic Universe welcomed its first visitor. The Greater Orlando Aviation Authority did not sit idle. Total investment in expansion stands at roughly $6 billion. Terminal C, opened in 2022, added dozens of new gates. Biometric systems are replacing manual check-in queues. New concourses are under construction. Integration with Brightline, the high-speed rail connecting Orlando to Miami, created an alternative for passengers who previously depended entirely on domestic flights to move across Florida. But here is the problem that turns all of this investment into a race with no finish line. Tourism demand is growing at practically the same speed as capacity. Every new gate MCO opens is absorbed almost immediately by the rising tide of passengers. It is like trying to fill a swimming pool while someone opens the drain at the same rate. You're not losing water, but you never manage to fill it either. And the third front is the most brutal of all. MCO currently operates with 3 main runways. For an airport serving tens of millions of passengers per year, each runway is a finite resource. Think of them as lanes on a highway. You can repave the asphalt, install electronic tolls, optimize the signage, but if the highway has 3 lanes and the traffic demands 5, no software in the world can fix that. Building a 4th runway would be the obvious solution, but urban development around MCO has advanced right up to the airport's edges. Houses, shopping centers, roads, The city's concrete has surrounded the runway's concrete. Capacity studies indicate that MCO could face serious operational constraints as it approaches the 70 to 75 million annual passenger range. With 57.5 million already on the books and Epic Universe adding pressure, that critical threshold is not a distant scenario, it is the next stop. This has happened before, and the outcome was not pretty. In 2004, London Heathrow faced a similar crisis. Demand exceeded the operational capacity of its two existing runways, and the airport became synonymous with delays, endless queues, and a degraded experience. The British government spent more than a decade debating the construction of a third runway. Meanwhile, airlines rerouted flights, passengers chose alternative airports, and Heathrow's reputation as a premium hub bled out slowly. The difference is that London has 5 commercial airports to absorb the overflow. Orlando has 1. If MCO hits the saturation point, there is no plan B within the same zip code. Sanford Airport, 40 miles to the north, operates at an incomparably smaller scale. Tampa is more than an hour's drive away. For a tourist who bought a park package with hotel and transfer, any alternative outside MCO is pure friction, and friction is the opposite of what Orlando sells. The Greater Orlando Aviation Authority knows it is in a race against the clock. The $6 billion in investment isn't vanity, it's a panic button. Terminal C alone cost more than $2 billion and introduced technology that most American airports still do not have. Biometric facial recognition systems allow a passenger to move from check-in to the boarding gate without presenting a document a single time. In theory, this speeds up the flow inside the terminal and reduces bottlenecks at security checkpoints. Integration with Brightline is an attempt to divert part of the domestic passenger flow onto rails, relieving pressure on the runways. The intermodal station inside MCO connects the airport directly to downtown Miami, eliminating the need for a 40-minute short-haul flight that consumes an entire landing and takeoff slot. But the most unusual bet, it's conceptual. MCO is trying to transform itself from an airport into a multimodal hub, a point where planes, trains, buses, and cars converge into a single integrated system. The idea is that not every visitor needs to arrive by air. If Brightline captures 10–15% of the passengers who currently fly from Miami to Orlando, that frees up landing and takeoff slots that can be redistributed to higher-value international flights. It is ingenious, but it depends on a fragile premise that demand growth slows down enough for infrastructure to catch up. And the rival here is not another airport. The rival is Orlando's own success. Epic Universe does not operate in isolation. Disney World continues to expand. Port Canaveral is receiving the largest cruise ships in the world. Royal Caribbean, Disney Cruise Line, and Carnival are all increasing capacity simultaneously. The Orange County Convention Center draws events that bring hundreds of thousands of visitors during specific weeks. At certain times of the year, MCO must absorb theme park tourists, cruise passengers, and convention visitors all at once. Each of these flows has its own peak, but when 2 or 3 of them collide, the airport faces a perfect storm of demand that no new terminal can solve if the runways are already at their limit. Epic Universe amplifies exactly this effect. More tourists means more flights. More flights means more landings and takeoffs competing for the same 3 runways, and more pressure on runways that can no longer be physically expanded. The race is on between investment and demand, and there is no finish line in sight. Orlando built the most efficient tourism machine in the world, and now that machine is growing faster than the funnel that feeds it. The $6 billion in expansion can buy time. Brightline can relieve some of the pressure. Biometric technology can speed up the flow inside the terminals. But none of these solutions removes the hard ceiling of the runways. And if demand continues on its current trajectory, MCO could become the first major American airport to be strangled not by a lack of investment, but by the overwhelming success of the city it serves. The question that defines Orlando's future is not whether Epic Universe will attract millions of new visitors. That is already happening.
The question is whether the city can deliver the experience it promised when all those millions try to land at the same time.